And welcome to another edition of the Bullheaded Podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and Peebles. How are you fellas doing?
Doing well, man. Bears got a nice little cute dub, like I was telling you guys before. Can't blame Tyson Bajer, man. I mean, I was like, all right, that's fine. Just come in, do your own little Jimmy G impersonation, man. No turnovers, just get the game done. And Monster Fantasy Week, man. I've been due. It's about damn time. Trying to make a nice little comeback this year, Zoo. Trying to make a nice little comeback that I know you're praying for. You're praying every day, man. Hoping.
Yeah,
for that
not gonna lie.
comeback.
Fantasy football, man, especially in the league that I care about the most, absolute atrocity, man. I got hyped about Lamar Jackson had a virtuoso performance. Mark Andrews, virtuoso performance. So my stack hit. But then you got these duds, man, aka Calvin. I don't call him Calvin Ridley, more like Calvin Hobbs out there, man, doing nothing, man. Absolute atrocious. He got 1 point in fantasy football, man. 1 point again after back-to-back duds, man. That guy sucks ass. My goodness. The team is on full panic mode. I am 2-5. I'm 9 out of 10 teams. So I'm the bottom 10%. Absolutely embarrassing. I'm in trade now moves. I got A-Chain on my IR. I got to trade his ass because I ain't going to make the playoffs of him, man. I ain't going to make the playoffs of A-Chain. A-Chain's going to be completely useless. So I am right now looking for full-on trades to win now right now. I need some win now trades to get it done to make the playoffs because 2-5, man, the magic number is 7. The magic number is 7, and right now, season's almost over, man. Season's almost over. There's only a couple of games left.
About halfway.
My fantasy update, like I was telling the fellas, I'm in 3 leagues. 1 league, 5-1, 6-1, feel good. It's I guess you could say the league that's got 8, an 8-man type rotation where you're going to have chances to get a lot of people off a waiver. So whoever's running hot that week, you can kind of figure that out and get yourself to a bunch of wins. I'm in my other league where it's 3 and 4, where I don't feel as good about that league just because of the competition that I see around the corner. I just don't see it happening, especially with my bye weeks, how they're setting up. And in my other league, I'm pretty much 1-6, and it's all that league is just more so like, hey, just don't finish last. You just need 2 more wins. If you can get 2 more wins by hook or crook, then you're going to be at least in that bottom 3, but you're going to be that that first one in that bottom 3. So fantasy has been up and down. It's the topic we're about to talk next. Everybody has their method of how they draft. Everybody has their method of how they look at players, and sometimes most of these players that are at the top of the draft, they can be guarantees, like a Justin Jefferson. Outside of his injury, like, he delivers. McCaffrey, outside of his injuries, he delivers. But man, other guys that you take a leap of faith with, sometimes it doesn't work out, and it puts you in a position where you're sitting up in maybe the middle of your work day or maybe late at night trying to figure out trades you can send to different people so you can make the team better. And, I'm talking about fantasy and just ups and downs with that. So I wanted to ask the guys, what are some of their fantasy busts and some of their, I guess you could say revelations, good revelations. And Zoo, I'm going to start with you on this one, actually.
Not going to lie, man. I got a lot of busts, man. And not going to lie, the running back position, this is a position I love for years, man. But if you take a running back in the first 2 rounds this year, it is rough in these streets, man. If you look at every single running back that got on pick, all of them, I don't know about the word bust, but a bunch of jags, man. Just a guy, man. Bunch of average Joes. You can pick up a Kyron Williams and get like the same production. Like, just guys that are not putting up these amazing games where they could win you weeks. Like, I love my boy Bijan Robinson. I just didn't know Arthur Smith was that type of coach, man. Just limiting his upside. I didn't take the coaching consideration. I knew the offense was complete garbage, but the coaching of utilizing Tyler Algier splitting carries 50-50. Tyler Algier is the goal line running back. Those high-value touches, man. You got to get those high-value touches, man. He get the pass catching work, but those red zone touches, it's always Tyler Algier. And the dude sucks ass, man. Last game, he had like 20 carries, averaged like 2 to 3 yards a carry. He's not good at all. And now he hits me with the flu game, except instead of Jordan dropping 30 points, this dude he gets 3 yards, man. He got me 3 yards in fantasy football. Adam Schefter did not do his job. The Atlanta reporters did not find this information. I was watching that
what
game.
were they doing?
I don't know what happened.
I was watching the game, just absolutely confused, watching Cordero Patterson out there and Tyler Algier.
Resurgence.
And
I thought it was 2018 again.
Yeah, I was just watching. I was just like, why is Bijan on the bench? Like I was like, did Bijan like slap Arthur Smith or something? Like what did he do in practice? Like I legitimately thought like he like did something in practice and got in trouble, and this is like a penalty. But turned out he had a migraine that no one knew about. But he had it the night before, fell a little headache, and couldn't play. So I'm like, my goodness, now they got the NFL doing an investigation on what happened, because you know the NFL right now they're in pockets of gambling, sports books, fantasy. Like they're partners, and this will significantly impact that. So I don't know who dropped the ball. I'm guessing it was Arthur Smith. The guy's the head coach, and obviously could have got the news out right before tip. I have like a little news. Bijan Robinson limited number of snaps due to headache or due to illness or something that easy. You could just tweet it out, but nope, completely blindsided. I don't even think the commentators barely mentioned it at all until it was brought up at like halftime that Bijan had a headache. So complete blindsided, man. But yeah, not just Bijan being
scoring either way, man. He hasn't been scoring even when he's been play.
He's been.
That's probably the theme of all the running backs.
Exactly.
It's not a lot of
Bijan Robinson, Tony Pollard, so average, so average. He's getting exposed as not being a true 3-down back because on those goal line carries, he's a smaller dude. Zeke obviously was the goal line guy. Tony P, he had opportunities beginning of the year. Didn't really cash them in. He had a lot of opportunities. So Tony P, obviously Eckler got injured. So like I'm gonna give him a break for that. Obviously he's an older back. Like the only one that's hit is CMC. And that dude's a guy. That dude. Oh yeah, CMC.
ETN's another one for sure.
ETN was a later pick though.
ETN you're talking about like first 15,
like the first 2 round consensus from the Derrick Henrys to the Austin Eckler's to the Bijans to the Tony Pollards. If you have those guys on your roster, you're probably not doing as good as the teams that went with the wide receivers and the pass catchers, because those guys that got picked first round, second round, they have lived up to expectations. Most of them. So my biggest duds, man, the running back positions in the first 2 rounds. And the headline is my guy, my ride or die this year, Bijan Robinson. But I don't blame the talent. I'm blaming the head coach, man. I didn't take the head coach in consideration when I took this dude because didn't know that brother could limit his upside so much.
Well, whether or not Arthur Smith is there next year, it's definitely going to be a new variable that Zoo will be taking into account with fantasy preparation, man. Coaching situations. Honestly, it's a big one, too, because sometimes a coach's ego just flares up. And I don't know if that's what's going on with Arthur Smith or if they're just butting heads as a player coach. I don't know. But
I don't trust Arthur Smith because he's starting Desmond Ritter. So
yeah, there you go.
Oh,
you can't trust him, man.
He's terrible.
You can't trust him.
Turnover machine.
I mean, I would say if he's out of a job, they're going to bring in if I were to guess, they're going to bring in a coach that just completely flips that entire system, whether it be hopefully on offense or defense. But so you stole one of mine, man. So it was Tony Pollard, just RB16 when he's drafted at around RB6 at this point. To your point, CMC was really the only value at his pick, and you could argue that he should have been the consensus first overall pick this year. Obviously, we know the Justin Jefferson situation, like Sean said. He would be productive, but he's got that hamstring injury, which seems to just be a plague throughout the league this year.
Yep.
But I'm focusing on, I got 2 wideouts. I am a shareholder in one, and thank God I'm not a shareholder in the other. And Zoo, you mentioned him. That's Calvin Ridley, man.
Oh, Jesus.
And I think he was extremely overvalued. I thought he was going way too early for having been out of the league for a year and a half at this point. I mean, I'm not comparing him to Deshaun Watson, but look at how much Deshaun Watson has had to do. And that is the quarterback position. I understand that it takes a lot more mental capacity to remember a playbook, get back into the rhythm. Everything's more so on your shoulders. But you'd think Calvin Ridley, he's got the speed. We saw it in training camp. Some of those videos, we were like, this guy's looking good. With Trevor Lawrence, I think him not taking the full step that we expected could be partially involved in Calvin Ridley's decline. But we're seeing Christian Kirk be a top 15 wide receiver as of right now. So, you got to kind of look at it and say, is Christian Kirk a more talented wide receiver than Calvin Ridley? Objectively, no. but he knows the playbook better. He knows the spots. The Trevor Lawrence, he clearly
Trevor
has the
Lawrence
camaraderie.
targets him
He
significantly
targets him
more
because they have camaraderie
significantly
from
more.
last year and previous years. This is, I think, their third year playing together at this point. Honestly, who would have drafted Christian Kirk over Calvin Ridley? Not me. I thought Christian Kirk was going to have a solid year, but being a wide receiver 1 on that team, no chance. So Calvin Ridley, only 2 touchdowns this year. He did have a couple pretty big games. Sorry, Zoo, to twist the knife in there, man. But another guy that I will take.
My God, I'm getting PTSD right now, man. like when I watch him play, I'm like,
this happened.
Is it Al Robinson? Is that Al Robinson out here? It's me and my hope again, man. I was like, this dude, resurgence. Oh my God, the bounce back guy. I swear to God, man. In football, when you're not good for a while, or you're out suspended or injuries, man, it's hard to bounce back to that highs, man.
Now we know
it is hard to bounce back to those highs because he's been an atrocity.
Speaking of atrocities, Zoo, and I'll take heat on this one. T. Higgins this year, man. I know he dealt with a little bit of injuries. I think he was out one game. Mans has put up like 150 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. He had one really good game where I think he dropped 21, but that was pretty much the entirety of his fantasy points this year. Once again, is it his fault? No, but I think he could be doing more. Obviously, he did deal with a little bit of an injury, but Joe Burrow has also kind of been off of his game a bit. Obviously, they're on a bye week back in week 7 last week, so we'll see how they come out in week 8. I do think T. Higgins will end up getting going a little bit more, and to be honest, I do expect Calvin Ridley to end up having a couple good games this year. It's not like he's going to just be dropping 5 points every single week. He is going to have big weeks. They do have a little bit of a tough defensive. I mean, Tennessee always gives them problems. The Colts have surprisingly actually had a decent secondary this year. We saw Amari Cooper struggle with that last week. PJ Walker at quarterback, I do understand that. But not being able to get open at all and catch a ball, there are some good defenses there in the AFC South. Texans have also been surprisingly pretty decent in their secondary as well. So yeah, man, T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley have been my 2 busts.
T. Higgins.
But
I noticed a theme though.
Wide receiver
T. Higgins, like Calvin Ridley, like you mentioned Christian Kirk. That guy's the alpha right now, man. He gets the majority of the target share load. He's more of a slot guy, but he's getting majority of the targets, and obviously he's still got a little big playability. We see from the position, the wide receiver 2 position in fantasy football for the guys who are drafting the 3rd, 4th rounds, all duds, man. From the Devontae Smiths to the Jalen Waddles of the world, and you mentioned T. Higgins, these secondary. I thought Calvin really was the alpha. Like, he's more of the 2 on the team. Sometimes even the 3, with Evan Ingram getting a lot of target share load too. So, like, Trevor Lawrence spreads the ball a lot more compared to other guys that force feeds ball to, like, the Amon-Ra St. Browns and the A.J. Browns, who are true alphas of their team. Like, these secondary guys, they are not producing at the level that I faded most of the wide receiver 2s, but you got to make sure you get those guys down, because those alphas right now, like, they getting 10-plus targets. And their big playability, man, it's something that other positions just do not have. So wide receivers too has been absolute dud this year.
Yeah, I agree with the Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, I guess you could say matchup that they have, I guess, within themselves on the team. Calvin Ridley, in the London game, and it was crazy because when I traded for him, I got him for that London game, and he won me a game. So I don't have as much slander for Calvin Ridley. I think, which I kind of knew this going into, I'm kind of decent at receiver in one of my leagues that I traded for to get Calvin Ridley. And I always looked at him as like a boom or bust project. So it was like, hey, I'm going to just put him at the flex in most weeks. And if he gives me 22 points, I'll like it. And if he gives me 8 or 9, I'll like that even more, because I'm probably starting other receivers that can give me more points. But Calvin Ridley's to the point now where you can't trust to even put him at a flex, because he'll end up getting you maybe 7, 6, 2 points. And I got to, if I'm putting you at a flex, I at least need to be in that 9 to 12 range weekly. I can't have you going below that. So Calvin Ridley is like, I guess depending on the matchup, or if, like you say, if it's a bye week and you have to start him, maybe he'll come through for you. But yeah, man, Christian Kirk being ahead of Calvin Ridley is
shocking. That's a surprise.
That's
shocking.
I'm shocked.
That's the one that hurts.
And you know what?
And then it hurts too when you trade for him.
And I will also say, because we mentioned him earlier, but one of my studs this year that is on the same team has been taking away big reasoning, and that's Travis Etienne, man. They're working. Now, the thing is, he's only had one 100-yard game, and that's the crazy part. But this man's just put up 7 touchdowns already through 7 weeks. So I'm not saying, now, obviously, if you look earlier in his game log, there were a couple games where he only had maybe, 11, 12 points. He was getting 60, 70 yards on the ground, couple catches, and wasn't scoring. But if you can expect this man to score every single week, which he has been doing the last
he's the goal line back. He's
a goal line back. Why are you trying to force a throw when you're on the 4-yard line? Whether it be a fade ball to Calvin Ridley or a crossing route, slant to Christian Kirk, or a little post route and just kind of a curl by Evan Ingram. You're just going to rely on your back. So obviously that's taken away from Trevor Lawrence because of how well Travis Etienne's been playing. So he's honestly been my biggest stud, I think, of the year. But it's not like he was drafted in the 6th round, right? We were seeing him going in
third round.
Early third rounds. Hell, I even saw him go late 2nd a couple times. So great picks by people at that level. And then my other one, I think Puka's kind of the obvious one because he's the waiver. He's the Odell Beckham Jr. From 2014.
Rookie wide receiver.
Wide receiver. I'm actually going to go with a guy at a position that we all hate working around, except if you're a Travis Kelce owner, and that's tight ends, man. And I'm going to go with Sam Laporta because a lot of people were getting this guy 12th, 13th, 14th round. And at a position where you're picking up, dropping people. Sorry, Sean, that might be your PTSD moment right there with Dalton Kincaid.
Facts.
But Luke Musgrave has been a guy that a lot of people are trying to get on the waiver wire. You guys get guys like Logan Thomas who have had good games but are up and down.
That's another good one, yeah.
Sam Laporta, man, is just getting 7 to 8 targets a game. Hell, even if he gives you 6 catches for 60 yards, that's better than 80% of the other tight ends in the league. And if you can fill them in and get 10 points and a half-point PPR, pushing 13, 14 in a full-point PPR, you are praying to God and thanking him that you made that pick that late, because you'd be on the struggle bus. Because outside of the slightly inconsistent Mark Andrews play, we've seen some big games from him. We've seen some absolute duds. Travis Kelce is the only legitimate tight end option this year. And I would also argue that TJ Hawkinson has outperformed, especially with Justin Jefferson being out. His target share has just skyrocketed. So there's a couple tight ends this year that I think Laporta obviously being the extremely high value or high return, I should say, based on where you drafted him. But I do also think if you took a gamble on Hawkinson over a George Kittle, for example, you're seeing some dividends on that end as well.
Yeah, being tight end purgatory is not a good feeling, man.
That's a great way to put it.
You just don't know when to start them. Because the week that they have 1 point is the week you waive them, and the next week is when they pop off. The regression for tight ends is legitimately impossible to predict these tight ends because their usage is just not there with like pass catchers, like wide receivers. Like unless you're a Kelce, and I would say I would put Mark Andrews right below that. Like you got the Kelce as tier 1, I put Mark Andrews at tier 2, and like Hawkinson and those guys. But the rest tier 3. It's just the rest of the tight ends because you just never know with these guys. Like outside like the rookie Sam Laporta, who's been a true target for Jared Goff this year, all on with the Monra. Like outside of that, just tight end. Like it happens every year. You got Kelce and then the rest of the guys every single year. Like it's the same story every year. You can try to go late, try to find the Sam Laporta of the year because there's always one guy. There's always one guy that pops
Dawson Knox a couple years ago.
Dawson Knox when George Kittle was a rookie. Like these guys, you just gotta get lucky with tight ends. So
you know what you got to do, Zoo? You just got to find the Iowa tight end.
Iowa tight end
draft, man.
Jesus
That's
Christ.
all you got to do.
It is impressive. It is like holy cow. I was like, is it George Kittle? Sam Laporta.
Started actually with Dallas Clark, who was Peyton Manning's Pro Bowl tight end for a long time. Right there. Yeah, he's a legend back in the day. Kittle, Hawkinson, Laporta. I feel like I'm probably missing
Who's the
one.
Seattle
Oh,
tight
Noah Fant was
Fant,
also an Iowa guy.
He had a little game last year.
I think he might. Is he injured or is he still in Seattle?
He's still in Seattle. I just don't think
I don't see him that much.
He's been an emphasis. I don't think he's been emphasized that much. I mean, because they have a pretty nice trio of receivers up there.
That's true.
I know Zoo was talking about the running backs in those top 15 or whatever, and they kind of been underperforming. But a guy that I picked over Kenneth Walker, who's another guy who's just still continuing to play really well.
Oh, he's been
and Travis Etienne. Like I thought because of volume, because of how he ended last year, and because I thought, maybe this is a person who will have more of probably a slower start because he has a new quarterback, but he'll eventually be able to help out his new quarterback. And if his new quarterback is any good, he's going to explode, and that's Dameon Pierce, who's been probably one of the bigger disappointments because I think a lot of people thought he was going to be at least a solid RB2, and with the
Mhm.
volume, like I just said before, and the opportunity to have a quarterback who, if CJ comes in and does what he's supposed to do, then it's going to open up even more opportunities for him to maybe be a low-end RB1. It just hasn't happened for him. Now, a lot of people are going to, offensive line injuries, which I do understand because that's the lifeblood of a good running back. But, man, you got Tank Dell, who's coming in. He's a good, solid slot receiver. You got Nico Collins, who's having a nice resurgence.
Great year.
You have CJ Stroud, who was playing not like a rookie, who's playing like a 5-year veteran.
Yeah.
You have a lot of things on, and you have a defense that is feisty. I wouldn't say it's the best defense in the league, but they're feisty and they're pretty good.
For sure.
Yeah. So it's like you kind of got to figure out, hey, I'm a power back. I'm getting all this volume. I got to make something shake. And if you can't, say you're getting 20 carries and you only get like 56 yards or 60 yards, find the end zone. Like, Devin Singletary shouldn't be finding the end zone over you. Like, if it's on the goal line, just find the end zone. And now you can say the same thing about Tony P. Like, he's not finding the end zone either. He's getting a lot of carries, and maybe that's just the thing with certain backs, man. They can't get into the end zone. I don't know. And it kind of does suck too. It's kind of like the Jalen Hurts effect, where if you had Gainwell in game one, or if you had DeAndre Swift, you kind of understand that you're going to depend on carries and catches out the backfield. Because if it gets anywhere between the 10-yard line to the goal line, that's Jalen Hurts territory.
The push,
like
our
better territory now.
Push.
But like,
it's unstoppable.
Yeah, so that Dameon Pierce is a one that it has really, really frustrated me, because it's just like you see the amount of, especially in the first 2 to 3 weeks, you saw all the carries again. It's like, well, he's got to break one of these. He's going to go for 110 and 2 touchdowns. You just knew that was coming, and it just hasn't come. So like, for me,
it's going to happen this week, Sean. He's playing Carolina.
Yeah, we'll see. Like you say, I got a tough decision between him and Roshan of who I'm going to start.
Oh, Dameon Pierce.
Yeah, for me, what's going to be hilarious is I'll start Roshan, and then he may give me a touchdown and
10
points. Yards maybe, but then like you said, Dameon Pierce is gonna probably get 3 touchdowns and 100 yards. You're gonna see a bunch of people saying like, "Did you have Dameon Pierce in your lineup?" No, I did not. Shut up. I didn't have him
because y'all told me not to play him.
Yeah, facts. But a guy who I on the reverse side, who I was pleasantly surprised by, not really, but kind of like, okay, I like this fine, is Addison. I kind of thought Addison was going to be a very, very nice compliment to Jettas because he's the number one option. But I didn't think he would be in the range of, and I know Jettas just got hurt, and he just had 2 touchdowns last night. I get it. But consistently throughout the season, he's been in the mid-tier, like double digits. He had that one stinker against Carolina, but he's been consistently giving you touchdowns, 10 to 15 points, and he gets in the end zone. He gets in the end zone. Ooh. And that's to me, if I was a dynasty guy, I would be super excited because then it's like, hey, if I got Jettas in one position, and he's probably going to come back, but if, maybe it gets to a point where, I don't know, Minnesota upgrades at quarterback. I don't know what's going to go on with Kirk. They could have a resurgence, but if you get a quarterback in there who's able to really utilize both weapons, like he could be a similar situation to how it is in Philadelphia. Now, Devontae's not playing right now, but like how you have A.J. Brown as the pseudo number one, but Devontae, when he's playing right, he could be a co-number one. Addison's got that potential, man. He's got it all in terms of route running, aggression, with like attacking the ball. Like he's got it. And it kind of surprised me because I kind of looked at him as like, okay, on the high end, I was thinking before the season, he'll be my flex just because of opportunity and he'll play off for Jettas. But now he's my best receiver on the team. He's my best receiver on the team. Yep.
Same.
Like, and I'm almost thinking about flipping him to see if I can get me another elite back, but I got to still do my research on that in the league I'm in. But Addison's he's probably been my favorite pick. And it's hilarious too, because I picked him and Kincaid back to back in my 14-team draft.
Unfortunately, one is no longer on your team.
Yeah. Hopefully waivers, I don't know who's listening, and they won't be able to hear this because waivers already go through, but I'm hoping to get them back because I lost last week. So it's like maybe, I think I'm in slot 2, and I kind of know, or 2 or 3, I can't remember, but I'm looking at the guys what they need. And the only way they would pick up Kincaid because
in spite
would
of
be
you,
more so because of just a spite, and see like, okay, let's use this as trade bait. Let's figure out what you're going to give me so you can get Kincaid back.
Right there, picking up all the Rams running backs.
Yeah. That would be the only reason why they would do that, because it would be foolish if they were to do that, because I know they're tight ends and that would just be stupid. Nobody wants 2 tight ends on their roster. But
a lot of trades.
So fantasy, a lot of trades have been going on. And speaking of that, deadline for the NFL trade. The NFL trade deadline is October 31st. It's not really something I know by like memory because it's not really anything that impacts teams greatly because you've seen some trades over the last couple of days and weeks, and it's been minor trades. Certain teams, get players that used to play for them to go back and yada, yada, yada. So I do think it's interesting this year because there are a lot of guys who are out there and with injuries, you just never know what could happen. So I wanted to ask the fellas, what are some teams that are, and we're kind of sticking to teams that are contending, not so much like a team that's 0-6 or 1-5, whatever you want to call it. Well, but we're sticking to teams that are maybe in the contention range. So, Peebles, who are some teams that you could see making a major trade or a minor trade?
I got 2 here. I think one of them is a bit more of like a kind of a fill-in, obviously a solid player, and that's on the Eagles side. Their defense is not what it has been in years past. I mean, look, they're still a great defense. Their pass rush and front 4 is ridiculous. But, they lost TJ Edwards to the Bears, nice linebacker. But their secondary has actually been getting exposed. I mean, we saw Tyreek Hill have a nice game last week. Hell, even when they were just absolutely blowing out teams, when they took it to the Washington Commanders, Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson still had good games individually, right? I'm thinking that you're looking at a guy in Arizona, Budda Baker, who's coming back from injury. At the safety position, if you can get an absolute stud, I mean, everybody knows Budda Baker. He's a pretty household name if you're an NFL fan, you know who Budda Baker is at the safety position. And you're talking about a Cardinals team that even if they do bring Kyler back and decide to play him this year, like you were mentioning pre-production, Sean, I still think that they just need to kind of start unloading some assets, really shore up for this upcoming draft. So I think that'd be a nice fill-in veteran presence for an Eagles secondary that is a bit lost at this point. They're still winning games because their offense is so good, and their front forward gets so much pressure. But if you really want to solidify this team for the Super Bowl run against a potential 49ers in an NFC Championship game, that's something you need to get going against a Debo or an Ayuk. And the second one, man, Zoo, you've been asking for this, man. Kansas City Chiefs making a move. I think they go for Jerry Jeudy at the trade deadline. I'm talking about a team that has been searching for a wide receiver 1. Now, I'm not saying Jerry Jeudy is like A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, but a guy that they know can get open, that you can at least have threatening and open up the game even more for Kelsey, or vice versa. Have Kelsey open up the game for Jeudy or Rashee Rice. So you're talking about a Broncos team that Russell Wilson clearly favors Cortland Sutton. He's actually been playing pretty well as of late. And Jerry Jeudy, I think he might have had like 5 catches for 60 yards or something like that. I think he just needs to be a wide receiver 1 somewhere. He's in that Devontae Smith, T. Higgins issue of, I'm not the true wide receiver 1 here. Maybe egotistically, I know I have the talent. But the Chiefs have nothing to lose. And what are they really going to ask for? I mean, we've seen wide receivers get traded for 3rd rounders in the past. Jerry Jeudy is 100% worth a 3rd rounder, even just taking a shot on him. I think the Chiefs, if you want to give yourself even more weaponry, because God knows Sky Moore has not panned out. They're lucky Rashee Rice. They're lucky Rashee Rice has come into his own. They're very lucky that he's started to play well. And MVS has actually had a couple big plays the past couple weeks. So you can't keep relying on some of these fluke games. I do think Rashee Rice has solidified himself in that offense. But if you bring in a Jerry Jeudy, that make the Chiefs offense even better on a team, Zoo, where this is the best defense that Patrick Mahomes has ever had.
Yeah. Best defense he's ever had. The offense has not been that.
It's probably the worst one he's had.
Yeah, probably the worst offense he's ever had. And he's still top 5 in everything in the QB stats world. So, yeah, Mahomes.
If I'm Denver, though, I'm asking for 7 first-round picks because that's in my division.
In the division, exactly.
Yeah, I'm asking for 7 first-round picks, and if you say no, then I was like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah, but at the same time, are you that scared of trading Jerry Jeudy? I mean, it's not like you're trading Justin Jefferson.
Well, if they're trying to tank, then
but
I don't know if they can because they don't have any.
Well,
they have picks, maybe. I don't know.
They know they're not going to win, but I don't know. They traded a lot for Sean Payton
and Russell Wilson.
That
franchise is completely screwed, especially in a division with Mahomes.
Very Brooklyn Nets of them, Zoo. Very Brooklyn Nets of them.
Yeah, mediocre franchise. Mediocre franchise making bad moves, man. That's a good one. Kansas City, though, the thing is about them, I don't think they need any help.
They don't.
They are the favorites to win. They're the favorites to win the Super Bowl, and if they stand pat or not, like like it's just adding extra credit to man. They
Exactly.
already have an A. They already have an A on the exam, man. Just like get that A+ right now because Jesus Christ, like their offense is not as good. They're fourth in scoring right now.
Yeah,
in the
Pacheco's
NFL.
had a great year. I think we got to shout him out too.
No, Pacheco's been running real. He got that distinctive run. He's running really, really hard. Obviously, yep, exactly.
The head bob.
Full motion, man.
Yeah,
full
the Adrian
motion.
Peterson.
Exactly. So shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I said, Kansas City Chiefs Invitational, man. They're gonna make it to the Final Four again, and we'll see what happens in the future. So my Super Bowl bet feeling real good. Got a couple of futures bet on them, man. Got a couple of futures bet on them. But for me, this is a team that made a lot of noise this early season, man. Saw 70 points out of them, man. But Jesus Christ, against competitive teams, like I was expecting some like nice man. Like, okay, this would be a nice game. Just a bunch of blowouts, man. Like when they get to play a legitimate team, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Buffalo Bills, they just get outclassed. Yep. And it's not even close. It's like it is shocking because Vegas has these games as 2.5 3-point spread. So they're expecting these are two elite teams and it's going to be a close game. But Jesus Christ, that Buffalo Bills game was disturbing, man. Give up 48 points, man. The defense has significant issues. Like I would be using assets to try to get some defensive players, especially in the secondary. Like 48 points of the Buffalo Bills. Like Jesus Christ, man. Like it just can't happen. Like all their wins are just over like some of the worst teams in football. Yeah. Like the Carolina Broncos. Panthers, like they have 0 wins for a reason. Like they haven't won a single game all year, so they beat them. They beat the New York Giants, like whatever. Danny Dimes, like the worst offensive line in football. They beat the Denver Broncos, another atrocious team. And like I think the best win is probably over the Chargers. It was barely a win because the Chargers blew that game. It was a 2-point game.
Brandon
Staley, so their best win is against the Chargers, and that was a 50-50 game. Like Chargers is known for blowing close games in the history of the Justin Herbert, Brandon Staley era of being in all their games and just losing in the fourth quarter. So I'm like, the offense is obviously fine. Tyreek Hill is on pace for 2,000 plus yards, and like he looks like it's either him or McCaffrey that's going to win Offensive Player of the Year right now, and it's going to be hard to choose between those two, but I feel like if Tyreek gets the 2,000 yards, he might get it this year because he's a guy that
McCaffrey would have to score like 25 touchances,
which is possible.
Which is very possible.
Which is very possible because this dude has got a touchdown in I believe 15 or 16 consecutive. Yeah, 16 consecutive games. So that guy's an absolute animal, but so is Tyreek, man. So Tua got Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert, and when A-Chain comes back, they have one of the fastest teams in the NFL and one of the most electric offenses. Fun to watch, but the defense, man, it is a significant issue. And against these elite teams with Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, like these guys that you might have to face in the playoffs, if you have Swiss cheese defense, man, these quarterbacks are going to expose them. And man,
they need Jalen Ramsey back.
And they already have him on the roster.
So I don't know if you had a specific guy in mind, but Jalen Johnson, the corner on the Bears, he had 2 picks this past week. He's on the trading block. The Bears don't want to pay him. And he's a Pro Bowl level. He's been a Pro Bowler. That would be it. Hey, man, I'll take more assets from the Dolphins, man. Chase Claypool, you can have him.
I'm telling you, the Chase Claypool curse, man.
Exactly. No, but they do need to shore up their defense. But
dude,
Ramsey's
bad. It's really bad right now.
Ramsey's huge.
Yeah, Ramsey, I think whenever he's able to come back and solidify, because you got to also remember, too, Xavier Howard, he went down. And
that's true.
Your top 2 corners not being there, not saying it's an excuse, but, yeah, man, that's when you're going against Jalen Hurts and all the weapons they have on offense, that's just not a good look. So I think they're going to have to figure that out on the defensive side of the ball. Maybe it's just health. But for me, I was looking at, the defensive side of the ball as well. I was very impressed with what the Ravens did this weekend.
Man.
They kind of came out and looked at Detroit like, you guys got to calm down the whole, we're here, all this bravado of like, we're the new team on the block. Like, we get it. That sounds cool. But we're the Ravens. This is what we do. You're in our house, and we're gonna show you how we get it done in at least the AFC part of the NFL. So looking at how Lamar was playing, and I mean the Ravens defense is always just super, super elite. They always got pass rushers, they always have linebackers, and their back end is usually pretty solidified with corners that are, that may not be as well known, but they know how to play ball. And it's just the identity of their team is defense. So to me, to Zoo's point, more than likely, if you make it to the playoffs, you're gonna face some semblance of Mahomes and Allen. You're gonna face one of those two. That's just how it's gonna go. If Burrow figures it out, gets a little bit healthier, you're probably gonna face him as well. And one thing that they all, this is not just subjected to them. It's any quarterback that's playing in the NFL, they hate any type of pressure in their face. So I think with the Ravens, I would do whatever it takes to get Brian Burns and get another stud pass rusher. And you know what, Carolina, I know they've been like, hey, we need to get another, number one receiver for Bryce. They're going to get that in the draft. Like, they're just going to get that. And if they can get a first-round pick off the Ravens, because the Ravens don't really need it, I feel like when you got a franchise quarterback, you just throw your picks away because you need to improve the team now. If you can get a pick where that pick more than likely is going to be in the late 20s, early 30s in terms of where the draft position is, with this class and especially the 2024 receiver class, is pretty loaded with a lot of guys. So not every receiver is going to get taken in the top 15 picks because there's going to be other needs for other teams. So you're probably going to get you a franchise guy at the bottom of the draft if you know what you're doing. And two, listen, I like Lamar, all of his weapons, but I think Rashad Bateman is expendable. And maybe he just needs a new fresh start with a quarterback who's a rookie who needs somebody that can maybe run routes, because he was very, very highly thought of coming out of Minnesota. And I think he just may need a fresh start. And if he can get that in Carolina, ideally, if you're Carolina, you're looking like, look, we can get a first-round pick off of Baltimore. It'll be at the end of the round or end of the first round. We can get our stud receiver who we think is going to be a number one option. Maybe Rashad Bateman, the light turns on. Then you're looking at a situation where you have a number one, a number two, and then I don't know what Thielen's going to do. You got Jonathan Mingo. Like, you can start building your core of receivers and, do whatever you want to do at running back. But I think Brian Burns being with the Ravens will be a very, very solid addition because, like you said, if you're going against Mahomes, or you're going against Allen, especially two guys like that who can scramble, you're going to need all the help you can get. So if the Ravens are, because I think on offense, to me, they're fine. Like, and this last week, may make me feel like, oh, it's just an admiration. Maybe it is. But I still think the sum of their parts are pretty good. So I think on defense, just keep at there. You can, to me, and Philadelphia is the perfect example of that. Just keep adding guys who can rush the passer. That's all you need. Just keep adding guys because you can never have enough of them. You can always get one more pass rusher. You get one like Brian Burns to me is one of the more slept on guys. I think it's because he's in a small market and the team hasn't been good. But I think if Brian Burns played for like the Dallas Cowboys, they'd be talking about, was Brian Burns the best pass rusher in the league? Like, he gets to the quarterback and gets it done. So, and he's relatively young. So I don't know what he's looking for contract wise. I don't know how that's working out, but just for this back half of the season, I would like that for the Ravens, man, because that's their type of game plan, defense. And
they either do that or they either do that or they big splash for Derrick Henry or something like that. That's the only thing I can think of.
I think Derrick Henry's a little washed. I think he is a little bit. I think you may be able to get somebody this year, but I don't want him next year because the dude behind him is better than him. Spears is better. He's a pass catching guy and he's faster. Like and that's not to disrespect Derrick Henry, but it's kind of like, to me, he's taking the Leonard Fournette track right now. Like he looks good. Last year he was kind of whatever, and I remember I think Zoo had brought up like it's gonna get to a point where it's like you can't just keep taking all these hits and him being elite every year. He's gonna have a drop off, and I think this year is the year he's kind of having a drop off. So it's like I just don't see it this year him being. Because now would he be better than any back in Baltimore? Yes. Like, and I love Gus Edwards, but no. Like, I think Derrick Henry would be a major upgrade, but I don't know. I think they can maybe find somebody else. I don't know. And one other trade I thought about: Can you trade? I don't know if it's the NBA, but can you trade injured players in the NFL or no?
That's a good question.
I'm not sure how that works. Because I was trying to find it earlier today before the pod. You can look it up right now. I don't want to make you do that and take your time to take all that time to do that. But I was thinking, because let's just say hypothetically you can. People, what would you say if they were like, if the Bears were just like, we're gonna ride with Tyson, let's just get Fields out of here, and they just sent him to Atlanta for like Heineke and like a pick? Would you be like, F it and do it?
I mean, I don't have
Especially
the
if you're
issue.
trying
I
to
don't
get
have the
Caleb.
issue of sitting him for the rest of the year if his injury is going to linger that long. I just don't think you can gamble on the first overall pick. Like you're pretty much saying, sure, you
Just ride with Tyson for the rest of the year.
Good. Drake May looks good. All right, I get that.
Yeah.
But if I'm getting a quarterback this year, I'm getting Caleb Williams, or I'm not taking one. Like Drake May, he's nice, man. But I don't know. I just get like the second quarterback in drafts. It's just a little PTSD.
You have PTSD because it would be the second quarterback, and Mitchell's from UNC as well. Like, you can't do that. Yeah, I get it. It's either Caleb or bust.
It's not trading him because I just think trading him. And first of all, he actually had played well the 2 games up until his injury.
He really did, yeah.
Because they finally started changing the play calling. He was getting more comfortable. The offensive line is finally back to being healthy, and they've actually looked really good the past 2 weeks. I just don't think you trade him. I'm on the stance as a Bears fan that sure, you could say, screw it, he sucks, blah, blah, blah. Dude, the team sucks, okay? The coaching sucks and the owner sucks. So it's just a cancer throughout the entire organization, and it's not put on one 25-year-old kid. All right. And I just think clean slating him is not worth it. I just let him play out, have him play through the last year of his contract next year, and see how it goes. Just add to the team. And then if it's really that bad, sign Kirk Cousins or something like that.
So what you're saying is it's not Justin Fields' problem, and it's the coach. And what's probably going to happen is, I don't know if you guys have been reading what's going on with Michigan right now.
Harbaugh, bring him to Chicago.
Maybe he makes his way. I don't even know. What lake is he going across to get to Chicago?
Michigan.
Lake Michigan. Make that little trip. Get on a little ferry. Get on a ferry and just go right across the Lake Michigan. Get right cozy right in the Bears Stadium and become the head coach. Because I'll tell you what, if Harbaugh became head coach of the Bears, we know the direction they're going to go in. It's probably going to be Williams, and I think he's an NFL coach. I think the college thing is because it's alma mater, but he's an NFL guy to me. So you want to talk about a big splash?
I hate Eberflus.
I love that.
Not the guy personally, but having a defensive-minded head coach and having no insight into offense is brutal.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of defensive coaches either. But yeah, man, we are definitely about to go to our Week 8 bets.
There is no nobility in poverty. I have been a rich man and I have been a poor man, and I choose rich every fucking time.
I will say, starting off just for me personally, Justin Herbert, come on, man.
Oh, Jesus.
You're supposedly supposed to play really, really well against the Chiefs. And
started well.
It started really well.
Drives, yeah.
And listen, it started so well to where I took it off the TV and I was just like, I didn't, because I'm not into, to superstitions and all that type of stuff. But I was just like, I think the Chargers are going to be in this game in the fourth quarter. And then, I was looking on my phone. I'm just like, what the heck, man? Like, it's just, and it doesn't help that Kelsey just went off. But we also need to, and this is for later probably, but I know we want to blame Staley, but Justin Herbert, man, listen, because also too, a friend of mine brought this up. Like, this will be, if Staley gets canned, this will be his third head coach, and early in his career. That I know Anthony Lynn was kind of like his first year, so I guess you kind of say that doesn't count. But it's like third head coach, man. Like, he got to figure it out. Not saying he'll be out of the league or anything, but he's got to kind of figure out the turnover thing. And at some point, when you're the guy that's the number one quarterback, you kind of, even though the head coach may be an idiot and your team is not as good, that's what makes a great quarterback great. You overcome that. Just figure it out. That's what the great quarterbacks do. But if you want to say he's a great quarterback. But I didn't have the best week in the Moneyline week. So, P-Bush, I'm pretty sure.
Stephon scored, and then Kenneth Walker breaks his touchdown streak, of course. Stopped at the 1
I actually thought it was going to be reversing that bet, but yeah.
I like, and you know what's funny? Stephon scored on that sliding play, and then he popped back up.
Yeah.
Oh, that was unbelievable.
It's alive. I was like, let's go. And then, of course, Kenneth Walker rarely hits 100 yards, but instead this time, I think this actually was his first 100-yard week and he doesn't score. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just cursed on this, man. I'm going to keep
Cardinals
going.
too. You're thinking, yeah.
Yeah, the Cardinals. I mean, game script, and then of course Jackson Smith and Jigba just pops off a little bit, and
Yeah.
it's like, all right, what are you gonna do? But yeah, man, this week I got 2 running backs. I'm sticking with running backs this week. I'm going with Breece Hall and Alvin Kamara. I like Breece Hall against the Giants. I play a lot of daily fantasy sports on DraftKings, and he's a very high value pick this week at 5,900 on DraftKings. I think it's just going to be a run heavy and defense heavy game here, kind of mirroring a little bit of what we saw in the Commanders Giants game last week. But I do think the Jets will be able to move the ball a bit more, just because their offensive line is not the best, but it's leagues beyond the Commanders. That's for sure. We know what Sam Howell's been having to go through this year. So I like Breece Hall in this one, and Alvin Kamara, man. I mean, you want to talk about a surprise stud since coming back from his suspension, man. He hasn't put anything less than 17 points on fantasy. Now, granted, he's only scored 1 touchdown, but I'm looking at this team, and look what the running backs did for Cleveland last week against the Colts. I mean, Kareem Hunt still not clearly in game shape, and this man's scoring. Jerome Ford, before he got injured, just broke 70 yards. And you're looking at a guy who has been averaging 12 targets a game in Alvin Kamara. 12 targets passing.
It's insane for a running back.
He is a monster. I just like him for his volume, his upside, and his opportunities. And you're looking at a team that Michael Thomas, he's doing all right. Olave obviously gets his looks. But Taysom Hill could be a little bit of a goal line issue. That's my only concern. But I think his big games are a bit of a fluke. They just seem to come very much here and there throughout the season. So I do like Alvin Kamara this week. I just think the volume against the Colts, who an offense that has been putting up a lot of points. So this could end up being a game where he just gets so many touches.
Yeah, Breece Hall, after losing the limited snaps, man, has been fully unleashed by the Jets head coach, because Dalvin Cook, I love this man many years ago, but he's washed. He's one of the worst running backs in football right now. Every time he's on the field, I'm just like, it's just inefficient running and just running to a brick wall. Like
Tyler Algier-esque,
Yes. Yeah, except this guy's getting paid $7 million to play football in the NFL, as a running back. So this is why people fade the running back positions, and shout out to the Vikings for getting rid of him ahead of this season, because
that's true.
Not that Madison's been any better. He might not be in the league.
Akers. That's another disappointment is Akers, because how he ended last year and coming into this year, you heard nothing but Sean McVay is his bell cow, and then insert Kyron Williams. So I digress.
Oh man, my picks, man. Picks been trashed lately, man. I can't believe I picked the Commanders. Oh my! I was watching that game.
You almost got it.
You almost did.
You almost did, but dude, Sam Howell is running for his life, man. That offense line is terrible.
Yep.
And he's I think he's been the most hit quarterback in the NFL this season. He's taken so many hits this year. I do like the weapons on the outside, but shout out to I feel like the New York Giants on offense looks a lot better with Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
He throws a
He's
nice
little
nice. I'm this ain't I watched Danny Dimes a couple games he played, and that offense did not look that good under Danny Dimes' leadership. Tyrod Taylor, he actually looks quite nice, man.
Because they don't have to completely rely on Saquon Barkley, which when Daniel Jones is in the game, you just put 8 in the box and you just force Barkley to beat you. But if Tyrod Taylor can throw to Hyatt down the sideline a couple times, got to respect it.
Yeah. So my goodness, that game was. Shout out to the Giants for actually getting their second win of the season. I'm surprised they have 2 wins, but I need to get back on track, man. Only up 1 unit right now. I'm 4-3 right now, so only up by 1 right now. So barely surviving. So if I have another L, that'll be a loss based on that profit share that the Vegas takes from you if you're 4-4. So I'm going with this team, man. Jacksonville Jaguars -2.5 at the Steelers, man. This
risky.
I know it is risky.
Very risky.
It's that 2.5, man. It just got to win by a field goal. It is tough because it's on the road at Mike Tomlin. This is a guy that historically has done pretty good against spreads, against Vegas spreads, man. But the Steelers offense, man, they're 4-2 this season they had a really nice win over the Ravens. Like I remember watching that game.
Yeah.
Okay, like I was pretty high on the Ravens offense. Like they limited that team to 10 points. I'm like, okay, that's kind of nice. But I just don't believe in the offense. Like not like Najee Harris and was it Jalen Williams? No, was it
Jalen Warren?
Jalen Warren.
Yeah, Warren.
Like it's just not productive at all. Like Najee Harris is another running back. Like my goodness, he's fallen off a click, man. Like he's one of the heaviest running backs in football up there with King Henry and AJ
little Eddie
Dillon.
Lacy in him,
Dude,
Eddie Lacy, man.
A little too big, man. They're a little too thick, man. Even at the running back position, man. Like they just got zero speed, man. Kenny Pickett has not impressed me this year as a thrower of the football, even though George Pickens, man.
Deontay back too.
Yeah, Deontay came back, so they got something going. But Kenny Pickett as a quarterback, I think he's severely limited, makes a lot of interceptions and poor decision making. Obviously, he's a young quarterback. And I just feel like the Jacksonville Jaguars, they had a really rough start, but they're kind of in a groove right now, just winning games by a decent amount, even though the last week's game, like against I believe it was New Orleans Saints, like they almost like blew that game, but they had complete control of that game based on their offensive scheme set, and they're extremely productive in the red zone. That's the thing. When I get my teams down there, I don't need no field goals, man. Like when you settle for field goals, you just lose games. And this is a team that obviously with the power of ETN and the red zone, they've been extremely efficient running the ball in the red zone. So I feel like they can continue to dominate, even though it's a tougher Steelers defense, man. But I feel like right now 5 wins right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars has been on a little hot streak. So I feel like they got momentum right now, even though this is gonna be a tough game. It's gonna be back and forth. But I feel like the offensive skill set on the Jacksonville Jaguars is just a lot better than the Steelers side of things. So I'm going with that. Field goal 2.5. It was 3. I would have passed on it, but I'm taking the 2.5, man. Taking the 2.5.
I like that. I mean, I think they're gonna have to get the ball out quickly with TJ Watt coming at them.
Yeah, and Calvin Ridley, man, I'm praying for you.
Yeah,
I'm praying for you to have a good game.
I
feel like it's gonna be another Christian Kirk game. The little slant route.
I don't think God's heard you, Zoo. I don't think God's heard you on those prayers, man. He's like, you know what? I'm just gonna spite you and give it to Christian Kirk. So I think Evan Ingram could end up having a big game this week, and I think ATN won't be putting up 2 touchdowns again. It'd be his 4th straight week of 2 touchdowns. I mean, he's put up 3 straight weeks of multi-touchdowns. Pretty ridiculous. But I agree, Zoo. I think the Pickett Jags defense is no joke, right?
Yeah,
I think they're
I would say they're a top 10 defense right now.
Yeah, probably top 12, 13, you know, and I just, man, Mike Tomlin just scares me. I know Sean agrees with me. They're 4-2.
He does it every year.
They're 4-2. They are actually.
Yeah, I'm shocked that they're 4-2 because I don't like that team, man. I just don't like them.
I don't. No, there's nothing about it that stands out.
If they had put Trubisky in, maybe this team would be 5-1.
If they had Kirk Cousins, they were a Super Bowl contender.
Wow.
They would be a Super Bowl contender if they had Kirk Cousins.
Pickens is the real deal.
Talent. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think they would be a Super Bowl contender. Steelers. I will say I've seen stuff betting wise with Mike Tomlin where like he does do well as the underdog and he's kind of like as a favorite. And I feel like him being at home, maybe coming off that win against, I guess it was the Rams last week. They may be feeling themselves, so it might be a sneaky one that Jags can go in there and go get. But for me, I didn't really see any nice money line bets that I'm like 100% behind. So I just picked 2 plus 200 and this early. Like it'll probably drop down to 190, 180, whatever. But it's in that range. The first one is the Rams at the Cowboys. I feel like the Rams with Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper, they have some weapons on the outside, and Trevon Diggs not being there. I mean, I couldn't even name the other corner for the Dallas Cowboys. I think they got Curse back there as a safety. But I think they could make some noise and kind of maybe make the Dallas Cowboys, who's coming off a bye, they may be a little sleepy-eye. They'll probably be well rested, but they may be a little sleepwalkish, and Puka and Cooper could have a really big day. And if Stafford could get some time, because, Micah, speaking of defensive ends with TJ Watt, Micah coming around the edge, that might spell a little bit of doomsday for Stafford. But if they can protect him, I think they could have, those 2 receivers can have a big day. And Darrell Henderson Jr., man, like he came in and gave him 60 yards, a touchdown off the street, literally.
Couch, man, off the couch.
Yeah, and he
style.
could just be a nice rotation of backs with him and Royce Freeman. Like they could, balance it out. Just give Stafford enough balance to where he can throw the ball how he wants to throw it. So that could be another one. And this one is only because of blood in the water. I think the Bengals may sense some blood in the water with the 49ers. I don't think the 49ers getting beat by the Vikings was in their game plan. And I think the Bengals are going to come out. T. Higgins may have a resurgence because he was awful weak. His ribs healed. If you tell me that Jamar and T. Higgins are going to be playing at their A game, I think the 49ers, they're looking a little bit, they're looking, not saying funny in the light, but listen, Browns defense, I'll give you credit for. Like, we get it. It's the Browns defense. They're the best in the league. But the Vikings, man, like, and like Kurt, like primetime Kurt's not the greatest. Made him look like he loves playing in the primetime. That's how the 49ers made them look last year. They got schooled by a rookie receiver in Jordan Addison that has no other number one. Like, you mean to tell me they're just going to all of a sudden, and their defense is great, but you just mean to tell me they're going to stop T and Jamar? Like, I don't know. So I think the 49ers are going to be focused this week, but I don't know, man. The Bengals are coming in, and I know Joe's probably putting down a message of like, look, these dudes on the ropes. Like, you saw the last 2 weeks.
Debo's out.
Debo's out. Like, they got a little bit of, and they're probably not scared of Ayuk, but so they're just kind of like, look, we need to come in here and make a statement. We got to keep pace because also the Bengals are looking like, look, like we just mentioned, the Steelers are 4-2. The Ravens are 5-2. It's like we can't have these games of slipping. So maybe it's a little bit of more desperation on the Bengals side of like, look, we can get these boys. So if I had to pick out of those two, I'd be more comfortable with the Rams, just because Dallas, they just always seem to disappoint when they don't need to. And if I had to pick out of the Cowboys or 49ers who I trust, even though I just kind of disparage the 49ers a lot, I still trust the 49ers more. So I would pick the Rams in that one. They're both at like plus 200, probably be 180, 190, depending on what site you get, DraftKings, FanDuel, whatever. But like I said, I feel great about a lot of them. The rest of them are like super long shots, which they just wasn't going to happen. But it's like, hey, who would have saw? I wonder what the money line odds were for the Vikings and 49ers.
Yeah,
you made some good money if you bet that. So
they were -7. It was spread. It was -7, man. So a lot of upsets.
Yeah. So I don't know. Those are two that you can look into, but for that's our week 8 bets. As usual, you can see all those type of things on Quantrill Knows, YouTube, bullheaded_pod for the Instagram, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts is where you can listen to us. And for me, Zoo and P-Bush, we are out.